I think they forgot how short I am. Hello, graduates, friends, family, and distinguished guests. Welcome to Women and Gender Studies Graduation. It's one of my favorite events, not only because it marks the end of a long year and the beginning of a much-needed summer break, but because celebrating these students and their many accomplishments always reminds me why I keep coming back for more. My name is Celeste Montoya, and I'm an associate professor in Women and Gender Studies. Today, I have the distinct honor of being your Master of Ceremony. We have what we hope is a warm and memorable ceremony planned for you today. To start our ceremony, we have a special treat for you. It is my pleasure to welcome on stage one of our extremely talented students, graduating minor Kate Manley.
Hi, so as she said, I'm a minor. I major in vocal performance, so I was really happy to be offered a chance to perform for you today. I chose this song because in a group of dedicated people to social justice and who are heading out there into the world to make a difference, sometimes we have to break the rules and go against the norm, so I will perform Defying Gravity from Wicked. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts. Close my eyes and leave. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down. I'm through accepting limits, 'cause someone says they're so. Some things I cannot change, but till I try, I'll never know. Too long I've been afraid of losing love. I guess I've lost. Well, if that's love, it comes at much too high a cost. I'd sooner buy defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity. You'll never bring me down. Unlimited. Our future is unlimited. And I've just had a vision, almost like a prophecy. I know it sounds truly crazy, and true, the vision's hazy, but I swear someday I'll be up in the
Now that's a way to start a graduation ceremony. Thank you, Kate. That was wonderful. It's not even on. I'll just be loud. Can you hear me up there? All right. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the Director of Women and Gender Studies Program, Professor Lorraine Beyer-DeVolo.
Why did I have to go after Kate? That was beautiful, and I'm so happy that I got to see you perform before you become famous. As director, I welcome you to the Women and Gender Studies graduation. This is a particularly special graduation for our program as it coincides with our 40th anniversary. CU had one of the very first women's studies programs in the country, which is to say the world. Women and Gender Studies now is an academic discipline, but our origins are tied to a social movement rooted originally in women's rights and feminism, but now incorporating a much more comprehensive vision of rights and ideals. We wouldn't be here without social activism, so let's just clap for that. And our students are a wonderful representation of that commitment as they leave the university as graduates. And if you'll bear with me, I'd like to just brag a bit more about the degrees that we are conferring today, because these students have so much to be proud of. First, Women and Gender Studies students are committed to both academia and service to the community. In the last 5 years, or in each of the last 5 years, Women and Gender Studies majors, one Women and Gender Studies major each year has received a Van Eck Award. It's one of the highest and most selective undergraduate honors given in the College of Arts and Sciences, and it recognizes students who have achieved academic excellence, as well as participated in extracurricular and volunteer pursuits. In 3 of the last 6 years, Women and Gender Studies was the top ranking unit in the social sciences for the percent of majors graduating with honors. And in 2 of the 6 years, we were number 4 out of all 45 units in the college. The average GPA for Women and Gender Studies majors is consistently and substantially higher than the average for the College of Arts and Science students in general. Women and Gender Studies majors are clearly excelling across their courses at CU. Many of our students retain these high GPAs while pursuing a double major or a minor. That is, over 2/3 of Women and Gender Studies majors have a double major, and many others have minors. And these majors and minors are dispersed throughout the university, but are especially concentrated in the sciences and the social sciences. Students with a Women and Gender Studies degree from CU Boulder graduate with highly desirable skills in critical thinking and creative and complex problem solving, collaboration, communication, and research and analysis with a local and global outlook. So indeed, we do expect them to continue defying gravity. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. The University of Colorado Boulder became home to one of the country's first women's studies programs in the early spring of 1974. Amidst the early activism of the second wave, its formation resulted from the tireless commitment and enthusiasm of both students and faculty. As Professor Beyer-DeVolo said, this past fall, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of that founding. Over the years, the program has grown and transformed in small and in big ways. In 1989, the program found a permanent home in Cottage Number 1, an old women's dormitory built in 1884, where it has remained ever since. Now officially Hazel Gates Woodruff Cottage, it is still fondly referred to as the Cottage. Hopefully some of you were able to visit it earlier today. In the 1980s, students could focus on women's studies under the American Studies program, but it wasn't until 1998 that the program was granted its own independent major, in no small part due to the diligent activism of both students and faculty. Not long afterwards, we added a graduate certificate program. In 2006, the Women's Studies program became the Women and Gender Studies program, reflecting the evolution of a program that goes far beyond the traditional conceptualization of women's issues to address broader understandings of gender and the way it intersects with race, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality, class, and ability. Our most recent addition to the program has been an undergraduate certificate in Global Gender and Sexuality Studies, for which we have our first graduates today. Despite the institutional changes in our program, one thing has stayed consistent, and that is the passion and enthusiasm of our extraordinarily talented students. Today, we have 3 student speakers who I think exemplify the unique voice and perspectives that our students bring to the program, the campus, and now the world. I have had the opportunity to work with each of these students, within and outside of the classroom, on academics and in advocacy. One of the joys of being a teacher is being able to see your students grow. Another, often less recognized reward, comes out of the ways in which they help you to grow. Perhaps you will understand what I mean when you hear from these veritable forces of nature, all of whom I've had the pleasure of applauding this morning at the Honors Convocation. First up is one of our minors, Emily Morgan.
All right. I'd like to congratulate all of our graduates here. You've done so much hard work to get here, and we should all be very proud. So I dedicate this speech to my friends and family who have supported me throughout the course of my degree. I remember watching my older cousins go off to college with trepidation as an elementary schooler. The thought of choosing a major, a single focus of study, was horrible. You would miss out on so many parts of the story. And it was very important for me to learn the whole story of everything. Black holes, beetles, Euronymous Bosch, hammerhead sharks, everything. In high school, I took every art class and every science class, except anatomy. I pet cats, I don't cut them up. I began college with a major in biochemistry. I've since realized my interest in chemistry stems from the fact that it is a beginning of the story of our world. Chemistry describes the building blocks of our physical reality. And the bio and biochemistry was important for me to maintain a connection with the macro scale experience. However, I still had a yearning to explore not just the biological structures of life, but rather who we are as social beings, as active participants in many societies and communities that humans have built. This led me to the Women and Gender Studies program. My minor in Women and Gender Studies has given me a language to understand and describe the many discourses that structure what it means to be white, queer, middle-class woman in the post-industrial capitalism of the US. Show any one of us a 3-second makeup advertisement and we can talk your ear off about the complex, historically located assumptions. In fact, Women and Gender Studies is particularly valuable because it is not about learning a story. In actuality, there is no one story to be told. It is about the critical thinking to establish what we believe to be common sense or natural, as instead located in a web of economies, histories, languages, and power structures. It is about building connections between coffee farming, the politics of the Reagan administration, gender roles in Yagavila, Oaxaca, personal stories of agency, and changing environmental conditions. I'm sure nearly all of us have been asked, Women in Gender Studies, what will that be good for? And we know the answer is everything, all the time. In an age where knowledge can be a click away, it is critical thinking that is indispensable. Women in Gender Studies has reoriented my relationship with my scientific career. Namely, I have realized how vital it is for my work to be involved in building a better story for the world we live in. I am not content living with the story we have now, one in which Black folks are systematically punished for living everyday life, a story in which lush, diverse ecologies are rendered barren, a story in which products come with the additional cost of labor communities' slow death. Academia is a powerful place of privilege. As such, I am determined to use the privilege this university has afforded me to create weapons of evidence and knowledge crucial to inciting change. I'm so grateful to the Women in Gender Studies program for a theoretical background and a diverse community that continually demands a brighter and more progressive future. I'm so proud to be among the people here today who will carry on the good fight.
Next, we have one of our majors, Jamie Woodworth.
Hi. So I'm not a great public speaker, so bear with me. But I have some important things to say despite that. Okay. I'm not going to share words with you about how we've succeeded in college, succeeded in our journeys, and will continue to do so. As with any reflection, the deepest wisdom is not located in the essence of triumph, but in defeat, in the sincerest failures. I want to tell you about how we hit the wall, how it's okay, and how we can look at it with reverence rather than fear. As feminists, environmentalists, truth seekers, and stone rollers, we are all faced with the challenge of looking at the world with honesty. Therein, we can sacrifice ourselves to an idea, for a vision of the future, for a dream. I've seen myself crumble at the juncture of my politics in person. I've often shrunk to the challenge. I have made so many mistakes. I will continue to make many mistakes into my future. This is part of the poetry of my life. I could not elaborate on what I mean by this, or the courage that brought me here, without telling you about a woman who is very important to me. A woman who has given me more faith in myself and more faith in the world than 4 years of university studies. So I'm going to share with you the letter that I've written to her as a farewell. However, although I know that we're about to part ways, I'm confident that we are not yet about to part paths. This is a letter to my boss, Ms. Sarah Dawn Haynes, alum of CU and self-identified possibility cartographer at the CU Environmental Center. But I would say that she's a self-identified person in a lot of ways. Okay, here it goes. Dear Sarah Dawn Haynes, I've gone over in my head multiple times how best to thank you for everything that you've done and shared with me for these past 2 years. Over much time, in daytime thoughts and dreams, I still can't come to a suitable answer. In reality, it will take a lifetime of continued friendship to really convey what you mean to me. For now, in this moment, I can only write you this letter. Here I want to tell you about some truths in my life, and mostly how you have changed me. When I came to college, I had a vision of what I wanted, but I don't think I yet had the insight to see what I needed. In small ways, and over time, the pieces of that picture fell into place. In the beginning, it was largely unconscious. You've always told me to have faith in my path. Now, I think I have internalized that message to a much greater degree. It started with choosing women and gender studies, right before I met you. To be honest, I can't remember the real reasoning behind the choice. I tell people it was because of an intrinsic feminist tendency or because of a class, but neither of those reasons are true. It was the pull of mystery. In this way, my path found me at the start. Over time, it became decidedly more intentional, but I'll get to that. I laugh to myself now, and I think of my entrance into women and gender studies as a form of self-medication. But because with utmost certainty, I know that feminism was the medicine that I needed. My heart needed some healing. And this was the beginning of a brightened consciousness and a lighter spirit that would carry me on in my journey. I have a deeply ingrained shame reflex. Again and again, I've tried to bludgeon my life into a more appealing shape. I thought that if I could beat life down hard enough, I could fashion the story that I wanted for myself. But the truth is, stories don't fit the organic pattern of existence. Life isn't naturally romantic, perfect, or circular, and it's rather egoistic to think of your life in terms of its narrativistic worth. I've decided to no longer live for the story. I've decided to live in the rhythm of chance. It's not the notes themselves that matter, it's how you string them together as music, and the choices that you make and the person that you decide to be. The stories we tell ourselves can hurt, and we all tell our lives as stories in some way. I am a woman, I am a daughter, I am a steward. It can so easily slip into, I am not worthy of this identity. It can so easily slip into shame. Because they are all fragile concepts to begin with. So we make up more stories to bandage ourselves. There couldn't be anything more important that I've taken out of feminist studies. That identity is illusory, and it changes. Life gushes, and we understand ourselves and our relationships over and over and over again. In these vicissitudes of self-knowledge, I find more peace than any kind of stable identity category. Stories don't change once you write them down, but we change and grow forever in outstanding and unpredictable ways. So have faith in your path. Like you said, that's what it means to live authentically. Who could want anything more beautiful than that? In this way, my personal feminist journey hasn't been understanding what it means to be a woman. I don't think there's any such thing. It's a journey of understanding what it means to be human. How to love unabashedly, live joyfully, and source the unshakable parts of me that transcend the stories that I tell myself and the stories that society tells about me. When I understood this in my heart, I finally dared to speak my truth and live intentionally as the person I simply am. It is one thing to grasp self-knowledge intellectually. Women and gender studies filled in this part of the equation. It is another thing to understand something emotionally and spiritually. I could not have gotten to that point without you. Sarah Dawn, you've touched my life in a way that nobody has. You've taught me more than the university ever could. So let me tell you more about how. When I decided to live receptively, you stepped into the picture. And this has proved to me that the universe always provides if you're open to it. I remember seeing you everywhere since my freshman year, before I even started working at the Environmental Center. It's something peculiar and special to you that you always radiate yourself. You're the sunrise. You bring warmth to everybody's life before they even know you and before you even know them. The most beautiful thing is that you seem to do so effortlessly, just naturally. In this way, you are more than a model feminist. You are more than a model environmentalist. You're a model human being because you are so in step with what you believe in and what you do and who you are. They are all one and the same. And therein, you would never let a story break you. You would never let the unknown threaten you. You do not fear what is other, what is changing, what is inside or outside of you. I can't help but admire the way that you seem to embrace the world in all its queerness and radicalism with the utmost certainty that we are all part of the same picture. Your compassion let me know that I am part of your picture too. I firmly believe that everybody needs a teacher in order to know or master anything at all. All my life you were the teacher that I needed. How is it that when I met you 2 years ago, I felt as though I held you in my heart all along? As I was expanding my feminist consciousness in the classroom, you pulled at my soul and taught me what it means to live what I learn. Quite overwhelmingly and unexpectedly, you loved and accepted me for who I was. You accurately reflected me, and for the first time I was at peace with what I saw, quirks, flaws, and all. Thereafter, I dared to see and I dared to be seen. And in doing so, I have learned to do the same for other people, to love honestly without judgment or prejudice. It's a skill still in development. It's fragile, and it takes all of my courage every single day. And still I fail. But my failures make me whole, because I get up and I try again. After every stumble, disappointment, and bruise, you've taught me that it's worth it every time. In telling people about you, I cannot call you my teacher, not my boss, nor my mentor. You're not my mother or my sister. The moniker that comes closest is Anamkara. It's a Celtic term, which I feel you may appreciate. It means soul friend. Sarah Dawn, you're the roots to my tree, the shine to my sun, the roll to my wave. You help me create music in my life. Your inspiration lingers and grows in all the ways that I know you now, have yet to know you, and all the ways that I love you. It flows through all parts of me. In this journey, I see now that as revolutionaries and leaders, we may not be able to change the world. But if we could change just one person's world, as you've done for me, we could start a movement.
There's a reason we have Kleenex up here. All right. Yes. We'll pass it down. All right, and now we have another graduating major, Katie Rates.
Women and Gender Studies Department, community members, friends, and family. On behalf of the class of 2015, thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for encouraging us, and thank you for supporting us in our academic and community work. When I came to college, I knew that the world needed a change, and I wanted to be part of creating that change. I chose Women and Gender Studies as my major because I wanted to learn the history of feminist movements and learn about the ways in which women, queer, and trans people and their allies are working towards social change, because I knew that history was necessary for grounding my work as a community organizer and activist. Along the way, I learned more than I had ever expected about the institutional structures that we are up against, as well as the pervasive norms that cause everyday people to perpetuate inequities. Basically, I learned that we're up against something huge. But in those classrooms, I also learned about our strength and our capacity to create the vision of the socially and environmentally just world we know is possible. Our power is in our numbers, our networks, and our relationships. Today, I want to share with you my understanding of our strength. When I was in an ethnic studies, theories, methods, and writing class, we read part of the book 1,000 Plateaus by Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari. That text introduced me to the concept of a rhizomatic structure. The theory of the rhizome came from the botanical structure that we can see in nature. A rhizome in nature is an organism that grows in many directions with many different nodes, interconnecting roots, and shoots that appear above ground. We in Colorado are familiar with the rhizome. A forest of aspen trees is actually all connected underground in one system. An aspen forest has hundreds of shoots, thousands of nodes, and a whole interconnected root structure that make it the largest living organism in the world. I think about all those involved in community work for change as a part of a social justice rhizome. We are involved in different movements which create different nodes, which create different shoots. Some of the movements represented today in this group are I2MCU, researchers working to improve campus climate, Black Lives Matter, people working for climate justice and an end to environmental racism, queer people engaged in advocacy, anti-sexual assault activists, reproductive justice advocates, and radical artists. We represent a powerful force of nature, expanding across dimensions and growing with each other in our movements and our action. And all of us here today are grounded through a vast network of roots represented by families, friends, and mentors. You all sustain us through life-supporting knowledge, wisdom, and advice. The histories and experiential knowledge you share with us grounds our work and helps us strategize, which increases our impact. Women and Gender Studies was, for me, a place to connect to this structure. I got to meet peers who shared my vision for the world. And we got to learn from professors who create radical spaces in the classroom and helped us find language for experiences we'd had and articulate arguments in response to injustices we've seen. And we got to read. We read authors who challenged the canon, authors who challenged the whole system of academia.
and authors who had been political prisoners. We are all connected to those giants that we learned about in the classroom, and to all the activists in the streets that we read about in the news today. Our commitment and our work contributes to this structure and makes it even stronger. A beautiful feature of a rhizome is its persistence. Someone can try and hack into a rhizome and cut it out, but the vast web has so many intricacies and such deep roots, they create a strong defense. And if you take and cut a part of a rhizome and transplant it, it will continue growing and spreading in its new home. So for all of us, as we look forward to our new chapter in life, take strength from the fact that we will continue to sink down roots, produce new shoots of activism, and find other nodes to touch and link up to. And every time you find a new mode of activism, you strengthen the global movement for social justice. Congratulations and good luck, class of 2015.
We're going to keep Katie on stage for a moment. Being the dynamo that she is, Katie has been invited to be the speaker at Ethnic Studies graduation as well. So we're going to have her and another Ethnic Studies student receive recognition a little early so that they can make the trek across campus in time. The overlap in Women's Studies and Ethnic Studies graduation ceremonies exemplifies how intersectionality causes spatial as well as embodied challenges. So if you don't understand that, I'm sure one of your graduates will explain it to you. So, all right. Katie is graduating with summa cum laude honors from Women and Gender Studies with a double major in Ethnic Studies and a minor in Education. She recently received a Campus Sustainability Award for her work with Fossil-Free CU and has received the Jean Dubofsky Scholarship, Ripple Award for Multiculturalism, Jacob Van Eck Award, and the James L. Schaefer Award. After graduation, Katie will be moving to New York City to join the 2015 New York City Urban Fellows Program, and she would like to thank her sisters, parents, mentors, the Puxta Scholar Program, her house, the Beat Collective, and her fellow activists for being such wonderful sources of support and inspiration. So we're looking for your degree here. I'd now like to call Melissa Ariola Pena on stage. Melissa is an Ethnic Studies major with a double minor in Women and Gender Studies and Political Science. She is part of the Miramontes Arts and Science program. She's been doing research for 3 years dealing with underrepresented populations, including with me, which was wonderful. In the future, she is planning on continuing to work with underrepresented populations to being able to help more students of colors graduate from college. Congratulations. So learning how to change things at the last minute, a very good skill for Women and Gender Studies. Each year, the senior colloquium votes on a person to speak at commencement. It is an invitation of honor, as this person represents someone that has served to inspire the students. To introduce our invited commencement speaker is senior Chloe Evans.
I'm very honored to welcome Professor Sam Bullington as this year's commencement speaker. Professor Sam Bullington has received degrees in environmental studies and anthropology, as well as his PhD in feminist studies from the University of Minnesota. While his research focuses broadly on sexual politics and nation building in post-apartheid South Africa, he has worked closely with South African queer and AIDS activists studying the nation's sexual orientation clause, as well as access to antiretroviral drugs for HIV-positive people living in poverty. Recently, he's been involved with the first trans organization in Africa, plans to start a trans choir in South Africa, and has been working on a book about what he has learned from his own gender transition. Here at CU, he has taught amazing courses that many of us graduates have had the pleasure of taking, including Intro to LGBT Studies, Global Sexualities and Public Health, Queer Theory, Sexual Spaces, Masculinities, and many more. Aside from Professor Bullington's amazing academic and professional accomplishments, he serves as an outstanding professor and role model in our community. His compassion turns even the most complex theories into relatable and understandable concepts, and his classes encourage all students to not only educate themselves on important issues, but to become a part of them and change how they see the world. Professor Bullington's willingness to share stories from his own journey create a unique classroom, one where everyone feels like part of a family, working towards something larger than themselves. His calm but passionate demeanor transforms a Tuesday afternoon class into a stage for discovery, radical activism, and connection building. His honesty, compassion, and commitment to such serious activist issues has honestly created a Sam Bullington fan club, especially in the senior colloquium. So it's only fitting that he takes over teaching it next spring. He is our go-to person anytime the Gender Justice League or the Senior Colloquium needs to create a panel, talk general feminism, or hear innovative new ideas. His willingness to be involved and interviewed in our colloquium project, Feminists of the Front Range, provided a refreshing perspective on how we define feminism. Thank you for your tremendous impact during our academic and feminist journeys. Speaking for myself and the other graduates, I am confident that we could not have picked a more inspiring or passionate speaker to send us off into our futures. Please help me in welcoming to the podium Professor Sam Bullington.
No pressure, my goodness. I don't know how on earth I'm going to live up to that. And after the amazing student speakers, I thought the faculty speaker was going first so that I wouldn't look poorly after the student speakers. It is such a pleasure to share this day with you, and truly, truly an honor to have been chosen by the students to speak today. It just really means so much to me. Graduation is, something of a performance for parents, for administration, for one another, and since, the students who especially have asked me to share some encouraging words with them today, then I'm going to speak primarily to them from the heart and share with you all what I wish that someone had told me at my own college graduation. So, the standard narrative of graduation is, today is a day of celebration, a pinnacle of achievement, a moment of relief, a time to acknowledge all of your hard work, your growth, your mastery. You've survived at least 4 years of nonstop challenges and have emerged victorious. You're a success. But today is also a day of sadness as you reminisce about your memories of this place. Say goodbye to friends with whom you're accustomed to sharing your everyday life, and bring to a close this chapter of your life that has likely been one of the most significant periods of your entire existence. And today is also a day of anxiety and even terror as you begin to move from this validation of success into whatever's next, the great unknown. And every graduation in life, scholarly or not, represents both an ending and a beginning, a movement from the comfort of mastery to the vulnerable place of starting anew as a beginner. But the gift of any liminal period, when you are between what has been and what will be, is that it offers time and space for reflection. In this instance, contemplation of who you are and who you wish to become, how you understand success, and what constitutes a meaningful life. In my consideration of these questions, one external reference point has been particularly salient and inspiring, and that is the life and work of Audre Lorde. and in particular, her piece, Uses of Erotic, The Erotic is Power. I first read this piece in my first women's studies class in college, and 6 months rarely passes in my life without me consulting that text for comfort, for guidance, and for wisdom. Even when I had a joining ceremony with my partner and we chose out readings for our ceremony, then I actually chose a reading from that particular piece. In it, she refers to the internal requirement toward excellence. But this excellence is not necessarily the same kind of excellence generally celebrated on college campuses. Grades and academic awards, sporting victories, college rankings. Instead, she explains that excellence is not a question only of what we do, but a question of how acutely and fully that we can feel in the doing. In other words, our degree of presence and of passion. And she says, once we know the extent to which we are capable of feeling that sense of satisfaction and completion, we then observe which of our various life endeavors bring us closest to that fullness. She calls this a grave responsibility. You can see why. Not to settle for the convenient, the shoddy, the conventionally expected, nor the merely safe. As you leave college, you'll be bombarded with expectations and advice from well-meaning relatives, and teachers, and friends, and media, all trying to tell you who you should be, what you should care about, what success and happiness should look like. But all that really matters is what is meaningful to you, listening to the urging of your own heart. Although it may sound cliche to do what you love and the rest will follow, your own inner compass truly will be your strongest guide throughout life. For most of you, this is how you found women's and gender studies. Not because it was a good career move, or because your friends thought it was cool, or because the media said it was sexy. You chose women's and gender studies because you genuinely felt passionate about it, and maybe even faced serious consequences for making that choice. So you have already embarked on the path recommended by Lord, the path away from what keeps us docile, loyal, and obedient, externally defined, and accepting of many facets of oppression. But it can be tempting when leaving college, a place where idealism and self-exploration are frequently encouraged, to think, okay, now I have to join the real world, and slowly let go of those things that set your heart on fire, that resonate with your own sense of integrity, in order to find your place in a system that, as Audre Lorde reminds us, defines good in terms of profit and conformity, rather than in terms of human well-being. Though it will be tempting to take the highest paying job, the most conventionally attractive spouse, the highest ranking grad school, the opportunities that look great on paper, I promise you that what will be most rewarding and satisfying is to choose those things that are the best match for you, regardless of how they look on paper. This is where you will find your joy, something that no amount of money or popularity or worldly success or material comfort can provide. For many of you, this will mean creating your own path in life, because the path you will be looking for simply does not exist. I know for myself, I had my first midlife crisis when I graduated from college. I looked out in the world to find my place, and much like my experience of gender, I found that none of the available options suited me. Most of you, I hope, will be looking to create genuine change in the world, rather than, as Audre Lorde says, merely settling for a shift of characters in the same weary drama. I've probably already found that the current power structure is not particularly welcoming of change. So I'd like to speak for a few minutes about the skills required to create change and to forge your own path in life. Although most of your professors, including myself, have probably highlighted skills needed to be successful students, such as clear writing, critical thinking, sound development of an argument, I would like to bring your attention to another set of skills required in the learning process that may be even more necessary for your life beyond college. Learning is an inherently vulnerable process. Basically, in order to learn something new, we have to admit that we don't know it already. So to embark on a learning journey right from the start requires a lot of courage. In order to test our newfound learning, we have to be willing to take a risk, whether that be raising our hand in class or submitting a paper, which requires us to be both humble and secure enough to open ourselves up to criticism and to feedback. And the entire process demands that we be patient and compassionate with both ourselves and others as we are figuring it all out. Creating something new in the world is also an inherently vulnerable process, one that requires a lot of courage right from the start, willingness to take risks, patience and compassion for our own blunders and the ignorance of others, and the right balance of humility and self-assuredness to follow our own vision and sense of integrity. I'm living a life that by conventional standards really shouldn't be possible. When I was growing up, I'd never heard of anyone like me. And although as a transsexual, there are many ways that my entire life has been defined by gender, in other ways, I've been living a life basically outside of gender in a lot of ways, disregarding societal expectations, not only for what it means to be a man or a woman, but even what it means to be a transsexual. In addition to what it means to be a professor, what it means to be a spouse, as many of you know who have taken my classes. Our human experience seems to pull us in two seemingly divergent directions. As spiritual essence organized into human forms, we are each completely unique. And it is our deepest calling to express our uniqueness. That is our very reason for being born. And yet we have a fundamental deep human need to belong. In each of our human communities, from our families, to our workplaces, to our friend circles, to our nations, including activist communities, have rules for membership, both spoken and unspoken. And although different communities may have greater or lesser tolerance for divergence from those community norms, our acceptance in these groups is fundamentally predicated on meeting such expectations, as well as demonstrating our loyalty to the group, showing that you are one of us. In exchange, we are given the benefits and protection of membership, which are many. So it is our human quandary that we are all called to evolve and to individuate. But such individuation takes us away from the comforts of being just like everyone else. Our uniqueness is our greatest strength and the foundation of our purpose for being here. And yet it is also our Achilles heel, our deepest human vulnerability. Because in order to stand in our uniqueness, we must come away from the crowd, kind of the essence of the coming out experience. And we all remember the great and painful lesson of adolescence, that it's dangerous to be different. So as a transsexual, my journey to my authentic self has been more visible and obvious than most, because it required physical changes to my body that were hard to ignore. But in no way is my journey extraordinary. In fact, it is the most universal of stories, because we are all hungering to connect to our authentic selves, to our own sense of integrity. We're all living in a culture that tells us that our material survival requires abandoning our integrity, and that continually directs our attention to our external environment and away from ourselves and what's going on inside, where, as Audre Lorde reminds us, our true power resides. And we are all flailing around without much guidance or role modeling about how to access and listen to that inner knowing, and all doing that largely unconscious anxiety dance of how much of myself can I reveal, and how much of my truth am I willing to give up in order to be accepted. So individuation demands leaving behind what we have known, and frequently those on whom we have come to depend for a sense of camaraderie and support. This is a lot to ask. So generally you must have a strong inner call, or be deeply suffering, to be willing to withstand such potential loss. Because we all want to belong. I waited over 10 years to go on hormones because I knew it would be very disruptive of the life that I had created for myself. Not my ideal life, but a life that was quite manageable and familiar. I waited for over 10 years to go on hormones because I was afraid of losing the acceptance and support of communities that had been my lifeline. And my fears did prove to be true, I won't lie. Going on hormones, as well as speaking my truth as a professor, was fundamentally disruptive, changing my relationship to the human community in most every possible way, resulting in both professional and personal consequences that at times were extraordinarily painful, including the loss of communities that had been dear to me. However, embracing my unique path has brought a multitude of unspeakable joys, including finding new communities of support, and it has been an incredible adventure of learning about myself and experiencing life in new ways that has been rewarding and satisfying beyond my wildest dreams. We live in precarious times, as you've learned in all of your women's and gender studies courses, We have created an unstable human community whereby the majority are dehumanized and burdened with unbearable suffering, while a tiny percentage of its members are swollen with greed and an inflated sense of self-importance, bringing our entire planet to the verge of collapse. Our primary framework for power is power over, dominance, and control, and even our models for social justice are often based on militarized notions of winning. We are limited by dualistic thinking and imprisoned in social categories that do not reflect the lives we are already leading. What we are needing more than anything else is a paradigm shift. We cannot solve the problems we face with the same consciousness that created them. Or as our dear Lord would say, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. In this historical moment, we are being called away from the group mind. You are the ones that we have been waiting for. You are our hope for the future. Thank you sincerely to each one of you for existing, because your presence in the world has made it easier for me to breathe. There's been decades where I've been talking about the things I've been talking about with you, and people look at me blankly, or they get angry with me, and it's such a relief to talk about things and to have you all say, yes, I totally get what you're talking about. I will be growing old in the society that you all will create. You are the ones who will carry us forward into our new future. It will take us beyond where we got stuck. We are going beyond our mind's version of reality, a very exciting shift in our collective belief system, much like when humans learned that the Earth was in fact round. It's moving us beyond what we think is possible, personally and collectively, which has been the essence of all great discoveries and contributions of the human community, from scientific and technological advancements to athletic feats to creative genius. We are going beyond our conditioning, beyond the limits of our parents, our teachers, our culture, into new territory. Since we are conditioned to fear and resist change, it is not comfortable being in the unknown, and in the US, we tend to regard comfort as an inalienable right. We reach for seemingly secure structures, both personally and collectively, to look for some sort of familiar reference point. That is why I believe we are currently witnessing so much frantic effort to shore up the old foundations, whether it's the resurgence of religious fundamentalism all over the world, the vehement defending of the crumbling institution of marriage, both from those opposing and those supporting same-sex marriage, or the desperate attempts to return the US economy to the way it was. In times of dramatic change, our panic drives us to turn back, to seek the old familiar ways, regardless of whether they are working. But as our Lord reminds us, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. So what is your vision? What is your gift? Your unique contribution? Nobody else sees the world exactly like you, and we need to hear your perspective. I know how scary it can be to name something that nobody else sees, but you are seeing it for a reason. And the path that you lay down will help those who come behind you to find their own way. Follow your sense of aliveness, whatever brings you joy. I know it's hard to listen to what's deep inside, but you deserve to listen. If you need it, I give you permission to live your life exactly in the way that makes sense to you. As John Kabat-Zinn says, regardless of how absurd our inner calling might seem, it is authentically ours, and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. I believe that success is simply honoring your unique life path. And happiness more often comes from taking a risk than from being comfortable. Although we are taught to seek the destination, whether that be the ideal job, the perfect relationship, financial security, societal acceptance, where we can just kick back and be comfortable, we are meant to always be expanding and evolving, seeking out new discoveries in ourselves and in our worlds, being transformed and surprised by life. We are meant to individuate, to move beyond where we have come from, to follow our own inner directives, to create our best, most exciting, most authentic lives. And I can't wait to see what you all create. Congratulations and my sincerest best wishes for your glorious futures.
Thank you, Sam, for joining us today and helping to honor our graduates. The Women and Gender Studies program has several scholarships and awards, and it is with great enthusiasm that I announce the recipients. Full descriptions of each award are found on the back of your programs. As a member of the award committees for the past several years, I can attest that our pool of applicants is always particularly strong, making decisions difficult. It was no different this year, which is certainly a testament to the excellence of today's recipients. Handing out the awards is Professor Emmanuel David. Professor David is a member of the undergraduate committee, which also serves as the awards committee for our scholarships. All students today, please come up on this side of the stage. Point over here. When we announce your award, and then you can exit on the other side. The first award is to the Lucille Berkeley Buchanan Scholarship. This scholarship honors Lucille Berkeley Buchanan, the first Black female graduate of the University of Colorado. It is awarded to a student who demonstrates a commitment towards social justice and who may be the first generation in their family to attend college. This year we have 2 recipients. The first is Caitlin Nagel. Caitlin is a sophomore major in Women and Gender Studies with a double major in Ethnic Studies. She transferred to CU this year and immediately got involved in the Gender Justice League, the Student Leadership Practicum in Women and Gender Studies, as well as the Honor Society Triota. She plans on eventually becoming a social worker as a means of pursuing social justice for people in society who are most vulnerable, disadvantaged, oppressed, and exploited. The second recipient is Amelia Louise Trujillo. Amelia is a junior major in Women and Gender Studies with a double major in Sociology. Amelia hopes to take part in the fight for equal pay for women as part of moving towards a world where equality can belong to people of all races, ethnicities, classes, religions, abilities, sexual orientation, and gender identities. Next, we have the Jean Dubofsky Scholarship, given in honor of the first woman to serve on the Colorado Supreme Court and a Boulder attorney who has worked tirelessly on civil rights issues. We have her here today, I believe, right here. Thank you for coming, Jean. This award is given to a Women and Gender Studies major and is based on academic record, education and career goals, community and campus service, and a demonstrated commitment to raising awareness of and combating oppression in all of its forms. This year, the award goes to Haley Wexler. Haley is a junior major in Women and Gender Studies with a double major in Sociology. She has been an active participant in a number of organizations and activist events on campus, including the Feminist Majority Leadership Alliance, Triota, Denim Days, Breaking Silence, and many more. She's particularly passionate about combating gender-based violence and is considering pursuing this as a career path. Congratulations. We look forward to hearing more about the achievements of these scholarship recipients as they complete their studies at CU in the coming semesters. Last, but certainly not least, is the Joanne Easley Arnold Outstanding Senior Award, an award named in honor of a professor emerita of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication of the University of Colorado Boulder for her long-term support of the Women and Gender Studies program. Joanne passed away almost 2 years ago, and she is sorely missed on campus and definitely within our department. It is, for those of you who did not get the chance to meet her, it is indeed a special award. It is given to a graduating Women and Gender Studies student to recognize them for outstanding leadership and service to women and gender studies specifically. It is to be awarded to someone that the faculty and staff have admired for their commitment to the program and for whom there may not yet have been any formal recognition through one of our scholarships or award nominations. Like the scholarships, it's a difficult award to give as there are so many students sitting here in front of the auditorium who have given so much to this department. There were many excellent nominations for this award. However, this year the award goes to someone who has gone above and beyond in everything else she has set out to do. She is a scholar, an artist, and an activist, and she has used all of these characteristics and talents in her contributions to the Women and Gender Studies program. While usually this award goes to a major, this person could only minor with us because she was too busy graduating with honors in the oh-so-easy degrees of biochemistry and molecular, cellular, and developmental biology. However, it is in addition to these commitments, and with them rather than in spite of them, that she has left an indelible mark on our program. Through her active membership in the Gender Justice League and Triota, along with her other activities on campus, she's inspired many of our students, our staff, and our faculty. It is my honor to give this year Joanne Easley Arnold's Outstanding Senior Award to Emily Morgan. And now for the moment that many of you have been patiently, or perhaps not so patiently, awaiting, the presentation of our graduates. We will start with our graduate certificates. The Graduate Certificate in Women and Gender Studies is designed as a complement to a graduate disciplinary program. It provides graduate students with the opportunity to think in an interdisciplinary fashion about women and gender, and to learn from a variety of scholarly and methodological approaches. Students in this program come from a wide array of disciplines, including but not limited to dance, theater, sociology, political science, communication, journalism, environmental studies, philosophy, and religious studies. Please come up on stage as I read your name. Presenting the students with their graduate certificates is Professor Janet Jacobs. Samantha Rohrborn. Is she not here? Okay. Oh, good. Samantha has earned a master's degree in comparative literature and the graduate certificate in women and gender studies with the completion of her thesis, Knowing the Margins, Colonizing the Gypsies in Victorian Literature. Samantha notes that the Women and Gender Studies certificate and the courses she has taken have allowed her to engage critically with the issues of race and gender. In her own research, she uses the tools from her Women and Gender Studies courses to discuss the racialization of the group known as Gypsies during the Victorian era and how that has furthered the racialization of groups today that have historically been described with that term. Congratulations, Samantha. Elizabeth Whaley. Beth is a PhD candidate in the Department of Sociology. The transnational methodology Beth utilizes in her dissertation, Rape Crisis in Rape Cultures, Transnational Feminisms, Nationalist Patriarchies, and Post-Colonial Sexual Abuse, that's longer than mine, good job, is a product of Women and Gender Studies courses. And Beth would like to specifically thank Drs. Deepti Misri and Celeste Montoya for their substantial contributions to her scholarship. Beth's theoretical and methodological approaches are deeply rooted in the feminist framework she's engaged with in their classes. Her experiences in women and gender study have also informed her own pedagogy as a feminist instructor, centering the role of gender within every sociological course she teaches. Now we move to our undergraduates. If you are following along in your program, you will notice that there are some names that we will not read off. Some of our graduates are participating in other graduations with conflicting times and are unable to attend. More of that intersectionality stuff. We will start with our minors. To earn a Women and Gender Studies minor, you must take a minimum of 21 hours of Women and Gender Studies classes. As our students will attest, these are not easy classes. They challenge students to think critically, locally as well as globally, and across intersections of race, ethnicity, class, and sexuality. Students, as I start to read your name, same thing, come up these stairs to receive your certificates. For each student, I will be reading a brief statement that they have written, so I cannot be held responsible. No. Presenting the certificates is Professor Robert Buffington. Allison Connor. Allison is graduating with her BA in psychology and a minor in women and gender studies. She is proud to have been the vice president and treasurer for Toyota Honor Society and is grateful to her fellow members for their hard work and activism. She will be attending CU Denver in 2016 to pursue her master's in multicultural counseling. She hopes to provide specialized mental health care for marginalized individuals and communities, advocate for universal access to quality mental health care, and erase the stigma surrounding mental health. She would like to thank her family, friends, and boyfriend, Anjay, for supporting her through her unconventional journey to graduation, and is especially grateful for her mom, Diane, for being her first feminist role model. Kate Manley. Kate is graduating with a Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance as well as a minor in Women and Gender Studies. She is a member of the Toyota Honor Society and thanks her fellow members for their leadership and dedication to making the world a better place. This year, she is proud to have started an all-inclusive feminist club called the Feminist Majority Leadership Alliance. She served as president of the FMLA and is eager to pass the torch along to the future feminist leaders of CU. Her plans for the future include melding her love of performing and feminism in some fashion to continue on her path for social justice and passion for singing. You'll find her in a big city living life to the fullest and taking every opportunity presented to her. Katarina Massa. Katarina is a geography major graduating with the Summa Cum Laude honors designation and distinction. She successfully completed her thesis about the empowerment and positive transformation of women and girls through female-only adventure education in order to achieve such honors. Katarina will be working to revitalize the Women's Wilderness Institute here in Boulder, Colorado, and wishes to thank all of her teachers, mentors, and advisors of the Women and Gender Studies program for supporting her through her 4-year journey. Emily Morgan. Emily Morgan is graduating magna cum laude in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology with a double major in biochemistry and minors in women and gender studies and chemistry. She was a proud member of the Gender Justice League and Advocates for Choice at CU. She plans to work in the Fierre lab on metagenetics. No, I'm totally saying that wrong. Social scientist here during the coming years and apply for a PhD in microbiology the following year. Many thanks to the Women and Gender Studies program for providing a space for critical engagement of societal discourse, and to Professor Montoya, Valerie Batt, and Alicia Turchette for supporting the activism of the Gender Justice League. And now for our majors. To earn a major in Women and Gender Studies, students must complete a minimum of 36 credit hours. Our majors take several required classes, including Feminist Theories and Senior Colloquium, both challenging classes, although in very different ways. The Colloquium is a class designed so that the students can reflect on their journeys in Women and Gender Studies and where it may lead them. It is an opportunity to put what they have learned into action in a class project, which ends up teaching its own kind of lessons, starting with how difficult it is to come up with a common project when there are so many passionate and strong-willed people in one room. This year, the students created a multimedia project called Feminists of the Front Range, modeled after the Humans of New York project. They spent the semester interviewing a number of inspiring people on campus and in the community, and then turning these interviews into a series of posters, posts, and a book that can be found in the cottage. Perhaps you have seen some of the posters on campus. If you haven't already, you should like their Facebook page. Seniors, I am so proud of what you have accomplished and the many lessons that you have learned. I look forward to hopefully hearing back from you about the new adventures you will soon embark upon. It is an honor as well as a great privilege to introduce our graduating seniors earning a major in Women and Gender Studies. Presenting the undergraduate major degrees are Professor Deepti Misri and Sam Bullington. Sorry. All right, Teresa Bonas. Social justice for all, including American Indian women, is important to Teresa. At CU, she has served with student government, sitting on the diversity committee, a career service student advisory board member, and part of the Cultural Unity and Engagement Center. Teresa dedicates her degree to her grandma Verda, the strongest feminist she has ever known, and to her children, Terrell, Taylor, and Blythe. Chloe Evans. Chloe is graduating with degrees in Women and Gender Studies and English Literature. After graduation, she hopes to work with women-centered nonprofits, work on an education startup project with her best friend, and immediately adopt a puppy with her fiancé. She would like to thank her friends, family, professors, and the Gender Justice League for their love and support. Shannon Holleran. Shannon is graduating with a major in Women and Gender Studies. She would like to thank her parents, Brad and Michelle, for their constant love and support. She would also like to thank her brother, Robbie, for being her best friend and role model, and all her extended family and friends who are here today for always supporting her and bringing joy to her life. In the future, Shannon hopes to achieve balance as a leader at work and in her home, treat all human beings with respect, dignity, and love, and hope that through her future experiences, she can figure out her life's meaning, significance, and value. Megan Irvine. Megan is excited to be graduating with double degrees in psychology and women and gender studies with a certificate in LGBT studies. She looks forward to taking a year off to find out how she would like to use her degrees to best provide inclusive mental health services to her community. She would like to thank her wonderful supportive family and friends, without whom this simply could never have been possible. Amy Johnson. Amy Johnson is a double major in Women and Gender Studies and Political Science with a certificate in Global Gender and Sexuality Studies. During her time at CU, she has been a member of the Gender Justice League and on the executive board of CU's Student Ambassadors. Next year, she hopes to do campaign or nonprofit work while eating as many tacos and petting as many dogs as humanly possible. One more thing. She plans to someday earn a master's degree in public policy, and she would like to thank her parents for privileging her with the opportunity of attending CU Boulder. Sadie Vermillion. Sadie happened upon the Women and Gender Studies program by chance, and since her adoption of the major, the program, it has continually inspired and taught her more than she ever thought possible. She is planning on going on to law school in the hopes of representing the marginalized group of Native American women and children. Jamie Woodworth. Jamie has graduated summa cum laude with the distinction in Women and Gender Studies and Environmental Studies, and is a 2015 Van Eck Scholar. She has been active president of the Triota Honor Society as well as student leader of the CU Environmental Center. She would like to thank the Environmental Center staff for their love and support. She would also like to thank Sam Bullington and Celeste Montoya for their guidance during her senior year. After graduation, Jamie is departing to earn her master's degree in human ecology at Lund University in Sweden. almost come to the end of our ceremony, but we have one more special treat before we conclude the ceremony with the moving of the tassels. Today we have the honor of a performance by Toluwanimi Abawoli. Tolu is an architectural engineering major here at the university. She is also Denver's inaugural Youth Poet Laureate. Please join me in welcoming her on stage.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I've been to a couple of graduations today already, and by far this one has been the most inspiring and just amazing like accomplishments by all of you, and especially those of you who are integrating these degrees into interdisciplinary work all over your lives. I'm so proud and I'm so honored to be here with you all today. So the poem that I'm about to share with you is one that is writing itself into a lot of my other work, especially because I'm going through this journey of transitioning into what it really means to be a woman and what it really means to carry the responsibility of being a nurturer, of being a scientist, of being a poet and an artist, and all of those different identities. And so, thank you for listening. According to my upbringing, 1, my auntie believed there were words a little girl should never yell, like no. No is too much of a sinkhole, stretches her mouth and fills it with sand. No one wants a girl with more rocks than all the stars inside her ready to throw. Why? Everyone is afraid that if they ask loud enough, God will answer, and they will have to listen. Girls have the power to ask and make everyone listen too. There are ways in which a girl should never be able to bend her spine over something so frail like self-worth. Her body, so powerful, will earthquake all over it, and the world will ask her to become smaller. Trade power for a smallness that won't scare them. 3, girls have been scaring the living shit out of everything. And girls have been scaring the living shit out of your boot-stomping patriarchy since the dawn of time. Perhaps this is why they hold us like near invisible pieces of thread, ready to be dropped and lost at a moment's notice, naming us fragile. Like fragile will make us easier to cut and use, but with every drop of blood from scraped knee, we remind them that the ability to be broken does not quantify fragility. Girls do not break silently. We'll crash and make you swallow the glass of our fragments. 4, never challenge a girl to a fight you are too sure you will win. You will lose. Like fishing boat to Mississippi River tide, her mouth is unforgiving despite the smiles. 5, girls know the thunderclap of survival, how to become a lightning storm when provoked. There is nothing scarier than a girl who knows when to push back. The rosebud is nature's most deceptive fist. 6, little tomboy girls are not often told they are beautiful, but will stay awake at night with the flashlight to tell it to themselves. They will paint their own rose petals red until the world will ask them to stop. Beware of the ones that don't. 7, when the bow of girlhood finally breaks and all the water comes rushing in and the fish with their mouths flapping tell you to now be woman, now be the body, the world will simultaneously pray in and desecrate. Their mouths are just gasping for air. You are the dam that must withstand it all. 8, no one ever really tells you how to mold this whirlwind of nature and thunder and water and earthquake and fire into woman. Sometimes little girl is just too stubborn to let her wave settle, so the body grows with a storm inside it. 9, Sometimes becoming woman means digesting the harvest of little girl, little ocean, little Mississippi River tide, consuming everything, even the thorns and the catcalls and the alligators, and the world praying and desecrating the broken rosebud fists, so tired of fighting when the glass has all been shattered. Becoming woman means letting girls stretch into lightning storm just to make room for everything we must learn to carry. 10. Womanhood is the revenge for girlhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the amazing performance. And that's how you end a graduation. A special thanks to graduate Teresa Bonas for helping to arrange this gift. At last we have come to the end of our ceremony. But first I would like to give a special thank to our student volunteers and our spectacular administrative assistants, Valerie Batt and Elisa Turchette, for their hard work preparing today's festivities. So make sure to thank them in person at our reception upstairs in the Heritage Center after the ceremony. All right, graduates, please stand up. Now, together as a class, as those who have come before you, and hopefully the many who will follow you, you become graduates of the Women and Gender Studies program. You may now move your rainbow tassels from right to left. So congratulations to our graduates and our scholarship recipients, as well as the friends and family that have made this day possible. It is with some sadness, but also with great joy and expectations that we bid you adieu. I leave you with these final words. I'm glad I switched from the Audre Lorde quote. The first is a quote from Alice Walker. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. And the second is by Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. We hope that you will all join us up for a catered reception upstairs at the Heritage Center. Thank you.